fine. Stay there. Okay, sorry, guys. I forgot I needed a mic. I probably don't. You all know I speak loud enough. So, first of all, I want to say welcome and thank you to every single one of you that could make it out tonight. I'm really grateful. I'm very nervous, but that's okay because sometimes nervous can turn into some good things. I'd like to introduce Cynthia Neufeld-Smith, who is on the piano. Yes. And she's also not anymore, but once a month. She was for a long time our organist and pianist, and she plays beautifully. And also we have on the cello tonight, Jenneth Hoover, who, by the way, just received an award in recognition for 50 years in the symphony. She plays in the symphony. So we're really lucky to have both of them, trust me. Can I move this back a little bit? Okay, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to move this. Next, I'd like to introduce Ludi Sapp. She's going to be speaking to us tonight about wellness. And I don't even know where she is. Where is she? There she is. Ludi Sapp, who is an amazing person. She does the work every day that's very difficult. She works with survivors. Trauma and PTSD. And she has a heart of gold, and she's also brilliant, and that's an awesome combination. And she doesn't like it when I talk about her like this. But she's going to share with us tonight some things that can maybe help us, or if we don't feel like that's what we need, maybe we can share them to someone who does. So, Ludi Sapp. Thank you.
That was quite an introduction. Thank you. I also want to thank Gail for all the hard work that she's done putting this on, and thank everyone for showing up in observance of National Sexual Assault Awareness Month. It's a very big problem, not only in the United States, but in the worldwide. So I appreciate everybody showing up and supporting everyone that's here. So I am very honored to be here. When Gail asked me to speak about self-care and self-regulation, those are some of my things that I really enjoy teaching people how to do. I'm going to try to do it within a 20-minute period. I don't know that I can, so Gail might wave me off if I go over too much. So I wanted to start out talking a little bit about how trauma impacts us. So some of the things that I look at when I'm doing an assessment is I'm looking at avoidance. So there are things that after we've experienced a traumatic event where we start to avoid people, we start to avoid places, situations. Sometimes we even avoid thoughts, feelings, or kind of detach from our own bodies. Arousal. There is a definite disturbance in arousal. So trauma impacts our autonomic nervous system, which is the automatic system that does a lot of our normal activities like breathing. So things like impaired sleep, either difficulty getting to sleep, staying asleep, impaired concentration, hypervigilance, which is when your amygdala is fired constantly and you're scanning the environment for a threat. That can be very exhausting. Exaggerated startle response, hearing a noise and jumping. Increased irritability or anger. So these are all signs of increased arousal. Intrusion. Trauma is very intrusive in someone's life. So whether it be nightmares, whether it be images, thoughts, or feelings that pop up that are uninvited and unwelcome. Negative alterations in cognition, mood, and perception of self and others. So not only does trauma change the way we think and the way we feel, but it also impacts how we view ourselves and how we view the world. So since trauma has such a large-scale impact, it's really vital that survivors learn how to take care of themselves. So through self-care and self-regulation, to improve your daily functioning, your overall relationships, and your life. So we all kind of have an idea what self-care is, and there's different areas I'm going to go over. But self-regulation is more about what happens to us internally. So if we get really anxious or stressed, our heart races, or we become shortness of breath, or we get shaky, or we get sweaty. So one of the things I like to do, and I did include packets, so if you didn't get handouts, please stop by our table and get handouts. But I tried to make handouts for everything that we're going to cover tonight. So one of the things I like to work on with individuals is developing a self-care plan where it's a holistic, where you're covering physical, emotional, spiritual needs, educational, social, financial, and psychological. So physical, getting back to basics. So eating well, eating healthy, making sure you're eating 3 to 5 times a day, maybe smaller meals, but so that you're getting regular exercise, medical care when you need it, either preventative or as needed. Staying hydrated. A lot of times people don't realize how important that is as part of self-care. So the old rule used to be 64 ounces of water a day, and it's now half your weight in ounces of water daily. So something to keep in mind. Emotional self-care. So engaging in things that are self-affirming, that are positive, allowing yourself to express your emotions, and having a good sense of humor, I think, helps quite a bit. Spirituality. So whether you have a regular practice that you do, or you're affiliated with an organized religion, spirituality is important in terms of finding meaning and purpose in our lives. Whoops, am I doing that? Connection, developing activities that promote growth, things that we find inspiring, and then developing a sense of gratitude for what we have and who we have in our lives. Educationally, whether that be, you go on to, say, college or something like that, or you take classes at like a tech school, or you take classes like at some local organization, or there's a lot of online things now. It doesn't have to be a formal 4-year degree, although I would encourage people to do that. But anything you can do to keep your mind open and learning new things and new skills is really important. So as far as like professionally, working in a career that you enjoy, doing something that gives you meaning and purpose, developing a good work-life balance. A lot of us do not do that. Developing positive relationships or interactions with our coworkers and our peers, and then learning some time management skills. Socially, maintaining a support system of positive people and healthy relationships, and finding time for like playful activities. One of the things that I've noticed is in trauma work, we don't stress pleasure enough. People need pleasure in their lives. So whether that is connections with other people, just going out and doing something fun, like moving in synchronicity with other people through exercise or dance, something like that, getting yourself involved. We heal when we're in relationships with loving people, supportive people around us, and whether that's a friend, a family member, or a partner. Financially, that's a big one that a lot of times people don't look at as being part of self-care. But if you are able to develop a budget, pay your bills on time, maybe have a little bit of money in savings, or put money away for education or for retirement, paying off debt. All of those things help to lower your level of stress. And then psychologically, how you take care of yourself. Develop a sense of kindness and compassion, not just towards other people, but towards yourself. Practice being non-judgmental. And again, I want that directed inward first. I know many people that are just the nicest people to other people, and they say some of the most horrible things to themselves. So developing a sense of non-judgment and being kind and compassionate to yourself. Learning new things, challenging yourself to get out of your comfort zone, and developing a sense of curiosity, just being curious about yourself and about other people. I recently took a trauma, it was an online thing that lasted for like 7 months, and it was through the Trauma Research Center that Dr. Bessel van der Kolk founded. And it was really kind of fascinating because I got to experience a lot of things through some of the leading trauma experts in the United States. And one of the things that was actually a self-care for trauma professionals, for therapists that work in trauma. It was part of a self-care plan, but I liked it then, and I wanted to kind of adapt it to use with my clients as well. So I want to share that with you tonight. So, in addition to kind of those maintenance tools that we have that we use for our coping, the instructor, her name is Jana Presley, and she teaches at the Trauma Center out of Richmond, Tennessee. And she shared some ideas that I really appreciated. One of them was when you're getting ready to go into a stressful environment or a stressful situation, having preparation tools. So this is something a lot of times we don't think about. We know that maybe a situation is going to be stressful, but we don't anticipate how that's going to have an impact on us. So I'll give you a good example. Holidays with family a lot of times can be very stressful. Even if you love your family very much, sometimes there can be conflict, or there can be distance, or there can be that drunk uncle that shows up, or whatever. So doing something to help yourself prepare for that ahead of time can be very helpful. And then there's in-the-moment tools. So you may get in a situation that you're not expecting it to be a stressful event, but you find yourself in the middle of that. So what are some things you can do to kind of take care of yourself and regulate in the moment? And then recovery tools. Having some tools to help yourself cope after a stressful situation. How am I doing on time, Gail? Okay. So I'm not going to go into great detail on the others, but some other vital parts of self-care and self-regulation is developing healthy boundaries, not just physical boundaries, but like intellectual boundaries, emotional boundaries, of course, sexual boundaries, and time boundaries. And then values is a big way that we can take care of ourselves by getting to know ourselves very well and knowing what's important to us. So I'll just give you an example, like with family. One of the handouts that I like to have people work on is, as far as family is concerned, what kind of a daughter or son, what kind of a niece or nephew, what kind of an aunt or an uncle do you want to be? How do you want to be in these relationships? So it's not about what you want from other people, it's how you want to behave towards them. I mentioned earlier that negative thoughts was a big part of trauma. So one of the things, and actually my business partner Wendy was going to speak on this one a little bit, so I will try to do it justice. She does a little bit better with the cognitive behavioral stuff, but Cognitive behavioral theory came from Dr. Aaron Beck way back in, I believe, in the 60s. And Dr. Beck identified that, basically, I'm going to kind of just sum it up, what we think affects how we feel, and in turn, how we behave. So it sounds very easy, but if we can change the way we think, it will have an impact on our feelings and then on our behavior. So one of the things when we do have negative thoughts is catching ourselves in the moment. You have to be aware of it before you can make a change. And then challenge yourself, like, okay, is this true? Do I have any evidence to support this? And if you don't, then start looking at, okay, what would I rather think about myself? I'll give you a good example. So like, say I am mowing the lawn and I forget to put the garden hose up, and I run over it and shred it in half. So I could say something like, Ludi, that was so stupid. Why did you do that? You always do things wrong. You always screw things up. So if I go down that path, it's probably going to impact how I'm feeling. I'm probably going to feel a little sad. I'm going to be disappointed in myself, or feel a little guilty. And then that may cause me to maybe withdraw the rest of the day, maybe isolate. Maybe I don't do things that I had planned to do with friends or family. But instead, if I catch myself and say, well, yeah, I made a mistake, but it'll be okay. I'll run to Lowe's after I get done. I'll buy a part. I'll fix it. If it's too shredded like in the middle, then hey, I'll have 3 hoses instead. I'll just replace it and go on with my day. So there really is something about developing a sense of like self-efficacy, and that's believing in yourself and believing that you can do what you think you can do. Again, like I said, this sounds very easy, but it takes a lot of practice and repetition. And so I encourage people to take small steps towards making changes. So don't expect that you're never going to have a negative thought. Instead, challenge yourself to, 2 out of 5 times, I'm going to reframe this thought and do something different with it. Don't go for 100% of the time. We're all human, we're all imperfect, we all make mistakes. So give yourself reasonable goals that are attainable. I think time-wise, I'm going to skip. I was going to talk a little bit about resilience and post-traumatic growth, but I think I'm going to end on kind of some things that can be very helpful in soothing our central nervous system. So any kind of mindfulness-based stress reduction, which John Kabat-Zinn made this very popular, I'm going to say late 80s, early 90s. I might be wrong on that. But mindfulness is being aware in the moment, being in the present moment, not worrying about what might happen in the future or dwelling on something in the past. And I'm not saying that you can't go back and have memories or plan for the future, but when you're worried about it, that is taking you out of the present moment. Looking for purpose in your life and developing, again, that position of withholding judgment or being non-judgmental. And then developing a sense of awareness of your emotions and your bodies, of what's going on in your body. So some of the evidence-based things that have been helpful in relieving trauma, meditation is one of them. And you don't have to sit down and meditate for 45 minutes or an hour to get the benefit of it. Even doing 5 minutes can make a difference. Just being still, clearing your mind. If it seems overwhelming, try a guided meditation. There's a lot offered on the internet that you can do 5 or 10 minutes. Yoga is one that has been studied pretty heavily with trauma and has had some very good results. I did include some coping skills and some self-care things in the handout, so I hope everyone grabs some of those. But anything that includes like all five senses, so if you can do something to, enhance what you're seeing, what you're smelling, what you're hearing, what you're tasting, and what you're feeling, can make a big, big impact. I'm going to end with trying to wrap this all up into the theme of this year's It's Time to Shine, and that's the ripple effect. So I'm going to share a Taoist proverb with you. We cannot see our reflection in the running water. It is only in still water we can see. So when I read that, I think about the stillness and taking time to be quiet and just be aware. But then my mind goes to, what if a droplet of water drops into that stillness, or I throw a stone in there and it creates the ripples? That's what self-care and self-regulation, adopting some of those positive qualities can do. You make one small step, and then that can spread into many. So thank you very much for being here this evening, and again, taking part in this, I guess we're going to call it a celebration. So thank you.
We're gonna, sorry, I probably don't need it. We're gonna have a little music just so I can calm my nerves, and then we'll get right back at it. Won't take very long, guys. was beautiful, ladies. Thank you very much. Oh, wait, I need a piece of paper. Sorry, my shoes make a lot of noise on this floor. Okay, now it's my turn. So I'm not trained in trauma or anything like that. I don't have any of those nice degrees that help people talk to others. And I'm just an average person. The average woman, I think anyways. I'm not going to say normal because we don't know what normal is. I don't think any. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story because it's the best way that I know how to talk to people about a very important issue in our society. So 3.5 years ago, and by the way, if anybody is upset, please feel free to cuddle a dog because they just calm me way down. So 3.5 years ago, I was drugged and attacked. I was doing nothing wrong. I simply was going on a first date that turned very horrible very quickly. It was a long ordeal, and I came out of it very confused because of the drugs and because of the trauma. I knew my body knew something was wrong, but I was confused. Everything was foggy. So time went along, and I'm just going to be honest with everybody. This isn't easy to talk about, but I feel so passionate about the importance that I feel like it's worth the nerves and the scariness to share it. So time went along, and I had a very tough time. I probably spent like 2 years screaming in my shower every day, begging God to help me, to save me. It wasn't that I didn't want to live or I didn't want to be here. I have 2 amazing children and a son-in-law and 3 grandchildren. They're my whole life. I had a church family. I didn't want to leave this earth. The problem is I did not know how to live and exist with being raped. It destroyed my world, my fiber in every part of my being. So time went along, and I have, if any of you know me very well, I have sort of a persistent personality, even in the tough times. And so I sought out help once I could kind of get my feet under me. And that's part of why we're talking about today is wellness. You have to take care of yourself, and if you can't, someone around you needs to help you take care of it. So that's why this event is always for family and friends and allies and advocates. It's not just about us as survivors. So I sought out help free because I didn't have any money to hire expensive therapists or expensive lawyers or anything like that. I found a couple places, and all I did for I don't even know how long was stay in my house and go to therapy, which I was grateful for. I was lucky enough, for instance, to work with the Center of Safety and Empowerment here in Topeka. They, through some programs they have, they provided me with new doors and deadbolt locks because I was petrified And then my son put them in for me, and he also hung up dark curtains for me so I could keep them closed. It was a hypervigilance that was constant, constant. No matter where I went in this town or area, I was looking for that truck. I was looking for that person. I hated to go anywhere. My son, as a matter of fact, drove me everywhere for a year, I bet. So when this happens, it's not easy, and everyone deals with it different. I did report. I had a very bad experience, which is not uncommon, unfortunately. And that's another reason we're here today, because one of the goals I have is to make sure that anyone who goes through this and their family and friends is able to receive the support that they need. The way a victim survivor is treated is so important. Even though I feel like a fairly intelligent person, I can see things around me and figure life out, I had to be told every day, multiple times, I believe you. I believe you, I believe you, I believe you, and you are not alone. I am here. I am here. Whether it's to hold my hand or to listen to me cry or to listen to me just say what an average person might think is this crazy stuff, right? Because it's in my head and it's traumatic and I can't do anything with it. I don't even know how to function. So that's as time went along. And everybody's different. Everyone deals with it different, and that's okay. But I truly believe that one of the ways that we're going to make a difference in our society is, and this sounds like a strange thing to say, but normalizing the conversation about sexual assault and domestic violence. And what I mean by that is I have said to someone when I first started trying to get better at this, the conversation would come up in some circles about sexual assault and being attacked. And you can instantly see the look on their face. You know that they're not in a place they can talk about this, which leaves you alone or feeling alone. It's awkward, it's difficult, and it's no fun, and not anyone in the world wants to deal with it. Unfortunately, whether you were a child when it happened, or an adult, or a boy, a girl, a woman of any age, it stays with you, and you have to live with it. And part of our problem in this society today and in the past is that we do not talk about things, and therefore they're allowed to just expand and grow. You know, the victim, the survivor, is on this side. It's a secret. We don't talk about it. Shove it under the carpet. We're not going to deal with it. And all that does, what we've discovered over time, is it makes the survivor and the victim have to carry guilt and shame and fear, anxiety. And the problem with that is that it's not ours to carry. But somehow or another, we've ended up carrying that. Guilt for telling, guilt for not telling, guilt for not saving somebody. I mean, there's so much of it. And it's not right, but it's how we function in our society, because we do not talk about things in a reasonable way. So the matter of fact, the name of this thing I do was named by my 5-year-old grandson. It's time to shine. And what I think is important, one of the things, is we shine a light on us survivors and victims. We take that guilt and we take that shame, whether it's the survivor or family and friends or just someone you know, a neighbor, and we throw it back exactly where it belongs, which is on the perpetrators. I don't care who they are. What they did was wrong and unacceptable and never, ever, ever the victim survivor's fault. I don't care what you're doing. You can be on a date, you could be leaving a bar, you could be leaving church, doesn't matter. It could be within your own household. It is never okay. So we're going to take that shame and that victim, and we're going to shine a light on them, and we're going to take that guilt and that fear and everything that goes with that, and we're going to put it right there where it's at. And we're going to shine a light on the perpetrator. And now the reason why we're doing that is because they are emboldened. They know that most times they will not be prosecuted. They know it. They know it. Trust me. They know that they're not going to be caught. They know that if it's a he said, she said, in my situation, for instance, I'm not going to be believed, which is wrong. I'm not saying we go out and we start burning people that we think might be at the stake, okay? It's a thought. Just saying. But what we do need to do is every time they get away with it, which is a lot, over and over and over, they become emboldened. They know they're not going to get in trouble. They know they can get out of it. It doesn't matter if it was yesterday or 25 years ago. It doesn't. They know they're going to get away with it for the most part. So they're emboldened, and they just skulk around in the shadows doing exactly what they want. They pray, they manipulate, they're methodical. They use every tool that they've honed over years probably to hurt people that don't deserve it. None of us do. So the next part to this normalization of conversation is that we shine a light and make them come out of the shadows and make them be responsible for their actions, not us. They get to carry the shame. They get to carry the guilt, whether they think they do or not. That's not ours. They get it. So that's what I want to do here today. The ripple effect, I'm going to explain how I felt. I'm not saying everyone feels this way, but this is what happened to me. I feel like I was thrown into the deepest part of the ocean, and I sunk to the bottom. I couldn't swim. I didn't know which way was up. I couldn't even have a breath in my lungs. And I thought, I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it. There's no way, because I don't know how to do this. And the ripples that go out from that to the family, to the friends, to the community, to neighbors, to the finances in our community that it takes to help people like me get back on my feet are astronomical. The negative effects, the negative ripples, they just keep on going, okay? And I was like that for a long time, and I still am sometimes. I'm not fixed. I don't think there's any fixing. There's surviving, there's grieving, there's loss, and we learn and we get better. All of a sudden, when I'm at the bottom of that ocean and I think, I cannot make it, I felt my children around me, taking my hand, taking care of me, helping me survive and float a little bit. And then I felt somebody else reach down and grab a hand. Miss Kathy, Miss Sluty, grab another hand. And people sometimes were strangers, or someone even closer like Pat. And all of a sudden, I couldn't breathe, and I just was lifted up and broke through the surface and finally got a breath. Finally, I could breathe. And I thought, I don't know how this happened. And they helped me to the shore. So I'm on the shore now, and I'm still struggling, and I'm doing everything I can, and I'm saying things to people that, doesn't make any sense because they're not in my world. And I get stronger. I stand a little taller. I take a deep breath and I say to people, I'm here. You are not alone. You don't have to be alone in this. Family, friends, survivor. There are resources, and we need to be kind to ourselves. We need to seek things out. And if you can't do it as a survivor, please, family and friends, step up and help. Step up and say, I'm here. Let's go get some help. Let me hold your hand. Let me give you what I can give you. The first thing out of my son's mouth and my daughter, when I had to tell my 2 adult children what had happened because I was unable to conceal it, was, what do you need? Exact sentence. What do you need? And I said, I don't know. I don't know. And my son said, come on, let's go. And at that time, he was 25-ish. He put me in the vehicle. He took me to the doctor. Then he took me to the police station. And then he took me back to the police station, which was not a good experience for him either. And my daughter, white as a sheet, whatever you need, Mom. And I didn't even know what I needed, but I knew I needed something. I needed help. I needed love. I needed direction. And there were many others along the way that said kind words of support. So as time went on, what happened was I got stronger. And I swore I would go to my grave speaking about how victims should be treated and how we as a society need to change our ways. We need to look at how we raise our little boys and our little girls. We need to shine a light and not hide. It isn't our fault, and I believe you. I believe you. It is not our fault. And then we need to look at laws, and there's a lot to do. We need to teach people how to treat people like me, because not everyone knows. People that should know, like law enforcement, lawyers, I don't know, tons of them. People I know, they don't know what to say to you. So time went along, and I decided last year, I don't even know how I did this, that I was going to dive into that ocean, and I was going to swim, and I was going to kick, and I was going to hit, and I was going to speak until I had not another breath in my body to speak. God gave me the ability to stand up and say something. And I know not everybody likes to do that. It's not my favorite thing either, but this is important. And all of us together, and unfortunately, we're all in this little club that we never wanted to be in, family and friends included. We're tossed into it. We're forced into it. It's not the fun group that goes for a book club. It's worse. It's way bad. The book clubs are fun in Meriden, by the way. So we're in this club. So my thought is that I share my story in hopes that it will help someone and it'll help family and friends, and that we can come together. Since we're already in this club, we can come together and help put our notch in the mountain and change a little bit of society. I'm not under any illusion that it'll happen in a year, because that's impossible. Because there's people that have been working on this, Deborah, wherever you are, for, I don't know, 70 years. So I'm going to end, because I've talked enough for you all, I'm sure. Oh, and hold on, I'm trying to look something up, which is gone. Oh, Lord. I'm obviously not a tech person. I can't even run my telephone. Off it is. Okay. This is really important to me because I have a few sayings that are really important quotes. But my definition of justice has had to be adjusted so many times. What I thought was justice and going to happen did not happen at all. Far from it. But that doesn't mean I'm giving up. So this was said by Benjamin Franklin. Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those of us who are. And what that means, what I take from that is people who think that they're not affected by someone who's been attacked are just under delusion, because we all are. We may not know it, right? We may not know somebody very personally, but we all are affected, whether it's financially in society, or your wife or your daughter or whoever it may be, your niece, your son. It affects us all. So I hope that we can band together, share your stories if you can, talk to others, lend a hand, lend an ear. The more we normalize the conversation, we'll get less of those looks like we're crazy, and then we can move forward. And we got to keep working on it, all of us together. It takes every single one of us, and then some. So thank you, and please share your stories when you can. We're going to go ahead and light our candles, Ryan and Maddie. My son and his girlfriend will come around and help you light your candles. We'll hear some music, and then we're going to go outside, and we're going to burn some paper. So if you haven't got your paper and wrote on it, please get it, and let's have a good year. Thank you, guys.